Is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, closet swing traders. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. We made it to Friday of an absolutely wild week. Whew, I don't even know what next week's gonna bring, but even pre-market today, pretty volatile, pretty crazy. But what's crazier is we got Andy in the house. Good morning to you. We got Bill, Brian, Eric, George, Jenny. Good morning. We got Jay, Jeremy Hertz. Good morning. We got Jill, JT, Martina, Rick, Simon, Sebastian, Wally. Good morning to all you guys joining bright and early. All my peeps out in YouTube land. Good morning to all you guys. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. So, yeah, we got SPY with a little gap up. Still lots of earnings came out yesterday. The biggest one being Apple. They declined a little bit. Before we even get to SPY, let's actually talk Apple real quick. Their earnings weren't horrible, but revenue was like in line, and there might be a little overvalued still, just kind of sitting not too far off the highs. We talked about that yesterday, down a little bit. That being said, they're not getting smoked. We are at a little bit of support, somewhere around this 173.56. I got the 200 sitting at 171.96, so we're still holding that. And even pre-market, we started to rally back a little bit from the lows, I think. Let me just check the other screen. The lows, I think initially we got down to 169.23, so they're already starting to rampage back a little bit. And what was it, 169.26, something like that. So yeah, we got all the way down to this. We did breach that 200 once. We came back up. We're holding. I have very good longer term volume area at 172.54. So we'll see if they can maintain it and they don't nosedive off the cliff today. We'll see. Otherwise, technically this is a gap and go. I'm worried about that resistance down below us, and then to the higher side, we're probably looking for like 175.42. But even Apple coming down could not bring this market down. Then we had unemployment numbers come in this morning at 8:30. So if you're wondering why the rando pop, that was that. And good news, there's more people laid off. So take that how you want. But less people are working. That's bad news typically for the economy. Good news for Jerome Powell. So that gave the market a little bit of extra breathing room because again, that might be at least an indication. Realistically, it's an indication that especially after what Jerome Powell said and kind of the mannerisms and the tone that he used during the meeting, that he doesn't really want to raise rates. Having unemployment go up higher than expected will definitely help the case that maybe we might be done raising rates. We might just be done. Good morning, Joe. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but we have a wide open gap here. That never got filled. We were gapping up today. We are above another one of the magic numbers, 431.82. On our retest gap, let's see if we can get a little bit of a pullback first. I think all dips will still be bought today. That being said, I've zero idea how this day wants to close. I was thinking we could get like a small move today, inside day candle, something like that. Obviously, the unemployment numbers took us out of that range. We had an overnight, very, very tight trading range, not a lot of really back and forth. Very, very tight. And I thought we were going to kind of stay in that position. The one thing I'm thinking about is today is Friday. We do have a 2-day weekend. We still got lots of geopolitical mess going on, a lot of that. And you have a rally that took us, from the lows of this rally, 409.37 all the way up to where we stand right now, 432. That is a heck of a move. We wiped out a whole lot of the losses from this downtrend. I'm kind of curious if somebody wants to take profit on this gap up. Everybody, I think, is feeling good about the market right now in this terms of, well, it's not as bad as we thought. It's bouncing. I think we still have some FOMOers out there just trying to buy dips. So we're going to have to get a dip for that to happen. Maybe eventually put in some kind of lower or higher low, something to that extent. But I feel like there's a lot of people profitable on the call side of things. A lot of people that went long down here. This was a key number. I know RT3 talks about it a lot, somewhere around this 410 zone. he was spot on, dead on the money, and we got an amazing rally off that. So is this a time where people might want to take profits? I don't know. I would have the thought that, yeah, this is not a bad spot to try. We do have a pretty heavy resistance right above us, 434 into like 430, even 436. So somewhere up in that zone, that little block of trades, there is going to be a little bit of resistance, and we're very close to it. I would not be surprised if this gap comes back down, refills, retraces, and then I don't know the extent of how far this, because a lot of times when we talk retrace, the initial thought would be 430.87 right to the top of the candle. It doesn't have to. We can come a little bit lower than that, even retest halfway through. Again, we still have this wide open gap. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 days. I do think it's probably a good day to sell some calls. So if you're holding positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and a gap up, probably a decent day to look to sell some calls. I don't know what next week brings, but if we get dips, I think there's people sitting there going, okay, I don't want to miss this next move up. So we'll see. But technically, retest gap, I want to see first if 431.82 holds. Then I'm going to be looking for probably a little bit lower than the top of the gap, 430.38. And then if that starts to break, maybe we put in a bearish engulfing candle. At that point, would be 426.02. That takes us essentially back down to that 200 simple as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, or EMA. But we'll see what happens on this one. I don't think I want to be the first one to buy this gap. There's a lot of bullish momentum. There's a lot of things to like. We'll check out TLT in a second. That one's been kind of rallying off of the jobs numbers as well, or the unemployment numbers. We got the Qs. So the Qs have a similar gap up. Again, we have another big block of resistance right in front of our face, which is we have a little bit higher. We do have a little bit higher on this one. So this area right here, 371 to, we'll call it 69, somewhere in that zone. This spot should be a decent resistance. We're still kind of far from it. I see a few more VPOCs we have to get into. That's 366, 366. This one's probably 366 and change, so slightly above it. And then I got one more sitting right here, which is 365.37. So even that, yeah, we have a little bit of resistance before the much bigger block comes in. But again, still a gap up. 2 days in a row of gapping up. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be our 5th day in a row. So again, I think today would not be a decent day to look to sell some calls, especially if those shares that you're doing some cover calls are in the profits. That would make a ton of sense to me. I'm probably going to look to do that as well. TLT. Marie says, I am selling calls but losing money. You'd only lose money if you buy back those calls for a loss. There's only two things that, for people that, and that's a good point, for people that are not familiar with calls or selling calls, essentially what you're doing is, and again, you're only trying to sell it. So as long as you have 100 shares of something, we'll go through this briefly, but if you have 100 shares of, I don't know, TLT, let's say, because we're on this one, right? So you have 100 shares of TLT, and your strike price or your average price is $86. As long as you're selling your covered calls above, I mean, you can sell it for $87 strike price, right? No matter what you sell this for, that's automatically to you. You might be watching those numbers go red on your account, but that's meaningless unless you're looking to buy back those calls to keep your shares. In this point, I would just look to let those expire, right? Capture the premium here. You make a dollar per share on all your shares that you have, so you're up another 100 there. And then if TLT comes back down or there's another stock, then you're just kind of repeating that process. So yeah, don't worry about the red on the sell of calls. And again, we could absolutely rip tomorrow. So I mean tomorrow, Saturday, that'd be crazy. But no, next week we could continue this bullish momentum. I don't see anything really stopping us or pulling us back, but I do think there's got to be some profit taking eventually. I think people that are going to be buying here are just chasing markets. Otherwise, TLT is a retest gap as well. Second day in a row of this one gapping. This is up 3 days in a row as well. Good close on was this Wednesday. So we had a little bit of retest, good close, nice gap up. This one is clearing a whole set of pivots. So this one has some room in it. The next stop in a bullish direction we got to watch for is about 88.72. So we do have a little resistance there. Next stop on this one's 89. After that would be somewhere back in this 91 zone. So it does have a lot of room on it. But again, do we want to take some profits first? Do we want to calm down the bullish buying first, or is this market going to be 2020 all over again and just insane chasing everything? FOMO is hot and heavy, and all you do is just buy high, sell higher. I don't know, but at the best spot historically, buying after so many days up on gap ups is usually chasing in. Yeah, I'm good with that too, Win. I'm good with that too, but I would need like an email or something telling me that that's the market we're in now. Just buy high. Like, we're back to 2020. I think the Fed signaled enough. I mean, what drove that is again, it was the Fed, and it was them buying treasuries, right? So we knew that they were just pouring money in. And until they said, okay, we're not doing that anymore, we're going to start unloading. That was the sell sign. So the market is definitely being forecasted by the Fed. Is this one enough for that same catapulting feel? I don't know. I don't know. They didn't really come out and say, okay, we're lowering rates, we're definitely freezing rates. But they're definitely signaling it for sure. But we'll see. Tesla. So Tesla, nice little gap up in this one. Again, retest gap. We cleared some crucial spots. The one thing, and I don't know if it's going to happen today, but we did see a wild west wick yesterday in there too. And I think as soon as that wick came and closed, trading Tesla yesterday slowed down a lot. Still had a pretty nice close, 218.51. But this is a retest gap. See if we get a little bit of pullback. I got the VPOC 220.22. Let's see if that can hold. If not, we're going to look for a retest down into like 218.31. So again, I don't want to be the first one to buy a retest gap. See if we get any type of pullback first. Those are the two locations I would look for. And then, yeah, it does look like it has some decent momentum on this thing. We'll see what happens when this market opens. Otherwise, to the higher side, there's not a lot. Honestly, there's not a lot to hold us back in terms of just VPOCs. We definitely have some moving averages coming in. So somewhere in the range of probably 224.61. The next one up would be about 230.29. Of course, we could get held up on 226.37. It's kind of where that red candle opened. I think if you were bearish on Tesla and you are a hedge fund or institution and you got tons and tons of cash behind you, if you want Tesla to be protected there, that would be the spot to protect it. But realistically speaking, after this VPOC, which we're clearing now, the next one up really becomes 242.09. So lots and lots and lots of room, providing that we get through those moving averages. So it's not crystal clear. I don't think it's the easiest path, but we do have some interesting things also in terms of VPOCs. That was our third day in a row, so we are trending. I think Tesla's worth buy the dip. I wouldn't mind buying the dip, trying to take a trade on that one today. Let's move that one higher on the list. Again, I don't want to be the first one to buy it, but yeah, if you could call JP Lynn, that'd be awesome. That would be fantastic. Just tell him I said hi. He might act like he doesn't know who I am. I got kids. He's a kid. He knows. All right, we got Shopify. This shop skis. Really good day yesterday. I mean, massive move. I do have one little resistance probably sitting at. See, after again, do we blow the door off the hinges on this one and we just absolutely rally further and we're looking at 62.43? Maybe we get back to like 63.55. Those would all be targets, but this is a heck of a move. There's now a lot of people profitable. Anybody who was buy the dipper, dollar cost averaging all the way down on this one, all those guys are profitable. Obviously, we had a decent short squeeze on this one. After the earnings, the gap up, the earnings actually did look pretty good. But I would almost, if I was bullish, I would almost want to see nothing happen today on Shopify. I would almost want to see a few days, not even just after this gap, not even just one day. Give me like 3-4 days of just inside chop, build a little bit more pressure, build a little bit of base, and then push up. If this thing just skyrockets today, which again, it could, next stop would be 62.43. but now we're even further extended, and most likely we get that rubber band effect where we go and we just roller coaster down. So I would almost want, if I was bullish, I'd want to stay and do nothing on Shopify today, but we'll see what actually happens. Support on this one. Yesterday's VPOC 59.75. If that breaks, probably next target down would take us to about 80, not 80, 58.21, somewhere in that zone. TGTX had great earnings. Tage is in the house. What's up, Tage? Man, I'm gonna be in Long Island tomorrow. Tomorrow, Sunday. But I got a bunch of stuff to do. But I think 2 weeks after that, I got a little bit more free time. You gotta shoot me a text. TGTX. Yeah, they had good earnings, good gap up. This is kind of what I'd want to see on Shopify that I was just talking about. At least we didn't go crazy yesterday. So they again, good surprise beat, really good earnings per share, extra revenue. You're sitting in this, so this did create a high wave. I've got really good resistance at $10.57. Usually after the high wave, so a high wave is indecision. We got a big indecision candle. Usually you shop around for a little bit. So again, this would be another one. Give you another couple days of doing nothing. And then let's get that breakout. If that happens, which is off really good earnings, that might be the opportunity. Otherwise, today you're looking for, if you're looking for day trade on it, it might be a little bit tough. You are into resistance. You also have good catalysts to back you up to stay bullish. Next big spot we got a breakthrough is about $12. That gives us wide open range up to $19.74. So it does have a decent further bullish push ahead of us. That being said, technically this is a retrace gap that is never tested. I would almost want for me, because I like to save some money, but if we come back down to there again, I wouldn't mind it. I would have to do a little bit more research on that company too, though. I'd want to take a look at the balance sheet besides just one report of earnings. You missed Tesla, so Tesla's just a retest gap. It does look bullish. It does have a big range if we can get through those moving averages, but again, on this gap up after 1, 2, 3, a fourth day, I would want a little bit of a pullback to like 220.37, if not to like 218.04. If we could get that, then great. Take a look at Nvidia. Davids. Another one. All looking the same so far. Retest gap, gapping up. Really good range on it. Next immediate spot, I think we could get to like 447.87. And then if we could break through that, we could look at 454.59. That would be a wild move. They do have earnings coming out next week, too. That's going to be a big catalyst, too, I think, for the markets. Is it next week? No, we got, right before Thanksgiving. So we'll see if we're actually going to be thankful for NVIDIA or not. About 2 days before Thanksgiving. But this is a good level that we're kind of breaking through. Again, we're still back in this high wave indecision. I'm looking for maybe 438.77 as support. If we lose that, let's try it again somewhere at 432.95. 1, 2, 3 days of bullish buying. We do have a trend now, but we also, that means we have 3 days of people being profitable on a decent gap up into a high wave. I do like where we're opening though on this one, and I do think we could get a little bit more buying. But again, I'm gonna wait to see if we get even a red candle at open, something. Give me something I could take, maybe a break of. But I do have 2 locations that I'd want to see hold. First one being 438, roughly 54, and then somewhere down at this 432.72 ish in that range. Disney. Mickey Mouse is back. Nothing to see here. Parks running perfectly. With Disney, you are in a little bit of just sideways chop still. Definitely an interesting area to acquire positions. I don't know what the earnings report is going to be, but if it's anything that we've seen so far, it doesn't matter. It'll probably just go bullish based on even if it dips, it'll just get bought back up. We're back in that territory, but you have a little bit more So if I was to buy it today at open, and this is going to be my top range of the channel, this is my bottom range of the channel. Right now, I have a little bit more beneficial, productive R's southbound than I do northbound. So bigger risk if I was to go bullish here. I would have to wait for a retest gap on this one. But if I could come back into our VPOC, then I get slight risk to reward on my side to go bullish. This is 83.05. So let's see again if we can get a pullback. Some resistance coming in above us. 84.27 is the next stop there. Again, retest gap. Let's see if we actually retest a little bit in this market. SPY looks like it's trying to make new highs of the day. So we'll see. We'll see. The FOMO train is running wild today. It is running wild. Google. GOOGL. The Googs. Matthew says, how did you get my indicator list? I'm a hacker. That's it. If your passwords to everything is password, I'm gonna figure it out, Matthew. I'm gonna figure it out. Google just inside day. Google's on a mission. It's on a mission. It's got to break through this. We gotta get a close. We have not done that yet, but we got to get a close 128.22 or higher. If we could get that, then we're in this gap. Everybody who is a trader and who pretends to be a trader is looking at this gap right up in there. I see one big resistance right here, and then probably looking for up here would be the next VPOC. So it's got some room if it can go. This is 136.15 would be the wider target. And then we're looking at 130.29 is the immediate target. Other than that, the only thing I think that's holding this thing back is some of those bears, clearly. Right? This was a good gap. This is also a retest gap too. So this was us retesting. I would want to go a little bit more bullish edge on this one. Maybe throwing some kind of stops. This is our first attempt, but maybe we could throw some stops anywhere below 127.54. Give that a shot, or if we could continue to sell off, that would be a decent buy spot somewhere around there. Maybe we go low of the day. We did not quite fill this gap yet, so that's still open. But right now, inside day, so it's probably going to be a little chop unless we can start to break. So that's where I'm going to put the alert probably. Let's go with 128.50. I'm going to go a little lower on that alert. Let's see if I go right at the top just so I get myself some time to get the trade in. I'm going to add an alert on Google at the opening price of yesterday. If we could break through that, then this is all a retest, and the bulls are here to play. At least I think I can get up to like 130.24 in this one. So I'll push this a little bit higher on the list too. But oftentimes those gaps, once you're in it, it's fun. Getting in it is a whole situation. A whole situation. But right now, inside day is gonna be tight. Bill, BILL. Yeah, I think they were getting a little crushed. Bill Holdings. A little crushed to say the least. Technology services. Nobody knows what that means. And packaged software. So they package iPhones, I guess. I don't know what they do. You're starting to get into a little bit of support down here. Nothing too crazy. Otherwise, this is a pretty devastating gap. There is some selling already into this. Big, massive gap. I would actually probably look to play the fade. See if you get a couple candles to sell off first. Get down lower, maybe into like 63.13-ish, somewhere in that zone. But I think this one will probably fade higher. I don't know the volume on this one. I've never traded this. We shall see. Oh man, I forgot too. I forgot Sunday daylight savings. That means we get to move our clocks back an hour. We get to move our clocks back to hopefully a time when we could afford groceries again. That's crazy. You get to choose. You get to choose. I'm gonna get Bill pretty high on the list. We'll just see if we can get a retest on that one. If this thing opens, it's not too spready and the volume is decent. We'll see. Get that up there. Bill Holdings. Larkin says looks like in ABCDE broadening wedge on the longer term. It is just chopping sideways. I think they have to wait for earnings. I think the only way we beat we break out one way or the other, doesn't have to be bullish. But the only way I think we break out of that channel, that sideways chop on Disney, is from earnings, which is coming up soon. What about trajectories of the 2030 year? 2 year was going up. I can't read one word because YouTube put like a little heart over the last word, but are you talking about bonds? 20 year, 30 year, 2 year was going up. The yields were going up. Yeah, the yields were going up on treasuries, which means that inflow of cash was going down or more debt was being presented. So the government was selling more debt, which means that the yields would have to go up. So it's inverse. The higher the yields go, the tougher it is for the stock market because you could just put money in a market account, right? And that's the TLT. So that's where you're gonna get 20 years TLT. So down here, yeah, it was getting a little scary, right? We're at, I mean, crazy lows. We haven't seen this since what, 2007, 2008, something like that. So the fact that we're getting a little bit of relief here, and that's coming from the rates. So if we're saying, if Jerome Powell is saying we are not raising rates anymore, which he's not going to come out and say that, but if at least the market is taking sentiment of like he's done raising rates, if we can start with that, the next step after that is we lower rates, right? And then if we lower rates, well, bonds they're not going to look as appealing. But if you're going to get 5.5%, 6% somewhere, just relatively safe investment, holding it there, you don't have to deal with volatility, you don't have to deal with risk to reward, you don't have to deal with any of that. That's a pretty attractive looking option, right? And then you have money start to come out of the markets, and people are like, I'd rather just keep it in treasuries. So that was the biggest thing with anything in the bond market. But bonds are starting to get a little relief again because we're assuming that Jerome might be done cutting rates. Maybe keeps them there for longer than we thought. That's the next shoe to drop, but he's already kind of told us that too. So it's not really a surprise to the market. And now we're saying, okay, maybe risk to reward comes back on a little bit. We're not there yet. It's gonna, like I said, it will take a while to bring those rates down. But if we could get those rates to come down, the treasuries don't look as interesting anymore, and then money starts flowing back to the markets, and that will help boost up the stocks, right? So it kind of inverses a little bit. So as long as TLT goes up, that means that the yields are coming down, and therefore markets should have at least a little bit of breathing room. We got 24 seconds left until that morning bell. So everybody out there in YouTube land, I do appreciate you joining us each and every day. If you have not already, hit that like, subscribe button. Have a good weekend. Don't forget, daylight savings is on Sunday. We will catch you guys on Monday for yet another wild week. You guys are incredible.